So, like me, you're probably a little bit annoyed when you saw the guidelines that are saying that we're going to have to just be in groups of 6 again, and that, yeah, of course they talk about this late, but of course that doesn't include your bubble. But nobody has told me what my bubble is. I mean, am I just allowed a really big bubble? That would be great. And it's frustrating, isn't it? We don't like to be limited. We so often think that better means more, especially in our Western mindset and way of thinking. And yet, so often in the Bible, what we see is the opposite. I mean, we see that sometimes God will limit our sphere of experience and our sphere of influence because he wants to teach us something. You know, we read in Numbers chapter 13 that 12 spies go out and they spy out a land, and only 2 of them come back with a good report, and 10 of them come back with this really negative report. They say this is impossible, there's no way that we're going to be able to do this, even though what God has said is true. It is a land that flows with milk and honey. It is a land of abundance of fruit. We don't believe that we're going to be able to do this. And so 40 years they wander in unbelief. 40 years they walk around a mountain, and then one day God says to Joshua, get ready, you're about to go in and possess the land. Watch where my presence goes, watch where the ark goes, because you have not passed this way before. And Joshua does this really clever thing. He only sends in 2 spies to spy out the land. Why? Because during this season where we are transitioning into what God has next for us, sometimes we need to decide who we will walk with, who we will camp with, who we will spend time listening to. There are so many voices that we could be listening to right now. It's so important that we are with the voices of faith and the voices of hope and the voice of expectation. Some of the greatest things God chose to do, he chose to do with smaller groups. Jesus fed the multitudes and healed the sick and did all kinds of great things, but he displayed his glory with the 12. It was with the 12 that storms were calmed. It was with just 3 of them on the Mount of Transfiguration that Jesus showed himself in his fullness. And so I just really believe that there is a blessing in the bubble. There is a blessing in the limitation sometimes. Sometimes in those places, God wants to reveal himself in a greater way. There is an intimacy of solitude. There is something about stepping away from the crowd. Abraham had to step away from his family and all of his familiarity, and it wasn't until Lot, his security blanket, in fact the name Lot means covering, and it wasn't until he separated from Lot, his nephew, and really launched out of his comfort zone that God revealed the fullness of the covenant that he had for him and the fullness of the promises that he had for him. So may you know the blessing in the bubble. May you know that God has you during this season, that even if you are restricted on the outside, you're not restricted on the inside. Your spirit is alive and is ready to soar. So may you rise up with wings like eagles, may you run and not grow weary, walk and not faint. Keep going. God is on the move. May you be blessed in your bubble.